So, Beyonce, we're starting a new topic this term. We're looking at regional integration. Alright, this is in section B of your exam. Earlier, I told you the structure of your paper too. Alright? So, quick little segue, Karen. Give me one moment. Let me just go back over the paper to explain what is going to be in section B. Let me go back to the front page. So, in section B, I told you. Let me go back here. In section B, let me go back up here. 1 second. Yes, here you go. In section B, you're going to be asked essay type questions that covers development and use of resources and regional integration. Right? So you must be able to talk about how countries develop themselves, right? And how they use the resources at their hand. Okay. Alright? So the first thing we understood was that there are some challenges being in the Caribbean. Jamaica faces challenges. I see Tristan. So Jamaica faces challenges because of its size, its population, and its underwhelming economy. Alright? Now due to this, right, we are having issues with competing with the world market. We can't compete with China, for example, with producing or manufacturing. So they have come up with trade liberalization where basically smaller countries now are able to compete on the world stage. Alright? Because they struggle to provide all the resources that they need to actually be in that situation. The next one is lack of diversification in skills and exports. Alright? Some Caribbean islands are limited by their resources. Let me give an example. Karen, what does Jamaica is known for? What do we mine mostly?
Bauxite.
Right. But did you know that when we mine that bauxite, it isn't even touched here? We mine the bauxite and where do we send it off? To another country to export it to alumina. Right. So because, for example, we send a portion of our bauxite to our mainland country like UK because they have a higher grid power. Because the amount of grid you need to actually convert bauxite to alumina and aluminum is very large, more than what we can actually produce. So we don't have the electricity, much less the resources. Alright? So that's a little cool tip. If they ask you what can you repeat that?
Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but I had a quick question. Sir, so like on all the classes, like the class we have on Tuesday and Saturday, we're going to be continuing this one topic, correct?
Yeah, we're going to continue section B. And then if there's any topic in section C to cover, I'll cover that through past papers. But section B, because
Did you finish government with everyone else?
I started it, but I haven't finished it. I haven't finished it yet. Alright? So, yes. So with regards to section government, I'll definitely finish it up in one of these classes. Preferably one where everybody can join. Let's see who is that. We have Sene. So try to join earlier, guys. Please do. Please join earlier. Alright. Now, as I said, lack of diversification in skills and exports. Some Caribbean islands, right, are limited by their natural resources. So we can't actually manufacture bauxite in its secondary product. We have bauxite, but we need alumina and aluminum, but we can't produce it. So guess what? We need to go to another country, and this makes us vulnerable, alright, in supply and demand. Because if we are exporting our bauxite to Britain, they can decide what they would charge. You understand? Everybody understand that?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, what I wanted to get from this section is that with the main source of income from countries coming from trading only one or two major products, this makes countries in the Caribbean vulnerable in supply and demand. Many of the agricultural products that the Caribbean trades have a low export value. Alright? There's also a lack of skilled workers and diversity of skills in the region, making it hard for countries to increase productivity and develop their country. So what this is basically saying, Tristan, my bad. Tristan, are you there?
Can you repeat some?
I just read a paragraph that talks about the fact that Jamaica, who exports banana, for example, it has low export value. What does that really mean?
They're not able to supply it.
No. Low export value in terms of compare banana export to alumina export. Which one would you say is more valuable?
Sir,
You
can I
can
answer?
Yes, you can answer. Let me hear your answer.
Sir, that means like it doesn't value much.
Compared to another one, right? And the amount of skilled workers. So the skilled workers that it needs to produce banana is very little compared to the skilled workers who would need to produce alumina. You would need engineers, and on the other side you would just need factory workers. Alright? So in this disparity, it makes us vulnerable to supply and demand. Alright? If we are supplying something that everybody can produce, we aren't providing our country with something of value. Okay? So that's the second one. The third one is high levels of debt and unemployment. That's the third issue facing in the Caribbean. Since the Caribbean has a high debt burden, it is difficult for countries to invest money in development, education, or employment. As a result, there are high levels of unemployment or underemployment, leading to poverty and low levels of production, in which in turn keeps countries poor. So this is a vicious cycle, and I want you to understand that it is not like your country is not investing in you. It's the simple fact that it can't, because when they are under high debt burden, remember that when we got independence, guys, it didn't mean that we still could depend on somebody. We are independent. Alright? So if we are independent, all the struggles. Let me give an example. Haiti, for example. Did anybody learn about the Haitian Revolution from history?
Kind of, sir.
Alright, I'm not a history teacher, but forgive me. When Haiti got independence, they were absconded from trade, correct? Which meant that even though they had sugar, they couldn't trade with the Dutch, they couldn't trade with the Spanish, they couldn't trade with anybody, because the French basically said, we gave them independence, we still want to own them, or we still want to have them under our domain, so don't let them become a powerhouse, don't give them any trading power, so pretend that they don't trade. Right? And because they had all these resources that they couldn't trade and make money off of, guess what happened? High levels of debt in the country. Alright? So that's a little example. Okay? So because, for example, Haiti had issues with trading, right? It created a high level of debt because they had the export, but they couldn't turn it into monetary value. So they couldn't invest now any money back into developing the country, whether that's in education, whether that's in employment or otherwise. And guess what happened now? Because they can't invest in development, the country becomes underdeveloped and there's nothing else to develop it back. So that's what I mean by a vicious cycle. Everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alright, now the final one is international trade, and I want Sene to read this one for me. So I'm going to give you the 4. I didn't hear the bell for Talia, my bad. Cameras on, everybody, cameras on. Beyonce, Tristan, and Sene. Cameras on for me. There we go. Thank you. Alright, there we go. Good. So as I said, Sene, just quickly read this for me. International trade. The Caribbean imports
their products, technology, and vehicles at a high cost, as the infrastructure does not exist to produce these products locally. Since the Caribbean is largely made up of islands, the cost of transporting these products is high. At the same time, due to challenges of size, location, and development, it is difficult for Caribbean countries to compete with larger, more developed countries in the world markets. Trade liberalization means that small Caribbean countries compete for trade against developed nations such as America and India.
Alright, now thank you so much. Now, I want you to imagine this. If you are ordering something from Amazon, Karen, isn't it true that half the time it would cost just the same price as the product to get it to you, to get it passed through customs. Sometimes you hear people saying it basically costs the same thing, so you pay twice the amount. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
Right. So due to this very stringent rule where because of size and location, right, it makes us harder to develop the country because the amount of sheer willpower and physical responsibility it costs, right, it basically makes the entire system against you. So importing is so difficult that developing is like a restriction. So right from me, I want to do right from here. Since the Caribbean is largely made of islands, the cost of transporting products is high. Because you must travel by what? Either sea or air. Alright, since the Caribbean is largely made of islands, the cost of transportation of these products, such as dairy products, technology, or vehicles, is very high. Because you must only use the modem of either air, which is plane, or sea, which is boat. Okay? Now, Europe, for example, if they want to ship something from Italy to UK, do they need to travel by air? No, they don't. If you know Europe, you would know that all the countries are just separated by a border. So you can drive through another country. Alright? So the cost of trading is significantly lower because the modem is now involved with cars and vehicles. Everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay? So those are the four main challenges facing in the Caribbean. The size, right, in terms of land area, population, and economy. Lack of diversification in skills, right? This is solely coming from the fact that majority of countries only focus on tourism and one or two major products, right? Those typical products are banana, sugar, or coffee, right, which have low export value. And if they have low export value, right, they can't compete with the supply and demand of high export value. And the third one was high levels of debt and unemployment. So unemployment comes from the fact that some countries are absconded from trade, right, which makes it difficult for it to invest in their development because they have high debt, which creates high unemployment, which creates poverty, which in turn keep the countries poor. And the final one was international trade, because the countries, the Caribbean islands, are made up of islands. The only modem you can use is air or boat. So the cost of transportation is higher versus mainland countries, which you can travel by vehicles, roads. Okay. Now, I want to cover this term called trade liberalization. So right after me, trade liberalization. What is trade liberalization? So for persons who haven't written it off or who haven't met this term yet, this is for you. Let me just quickly check. Alright, good. Alright, let me know once you're ready. Everybody ready again? Hello? Are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
Alright. No. Trade liberalization means that the trade market has been liberated. So different standards are lifted and smaller countries are now able to compete with developed countries. I'm going to give you an example. So smaller countries can compete with larger countries for trade. Alright, and I'm going to give an example. So let's go to trade liberalization. One second. Okay. All right. Here we go. Trade liberalization. So it's just a relaxing of trade laws, but as I said, I want to just quickly show you an example that I have. Copy. Okay, one second. There we go. Okay. So write this example out for me. Here we go. So trade liberalization. It means, for example, banana, which is grown in the Caribbean, is also grown in Latin America. Okay? So Jamaica makes banana, but it's grown in larger markets such as Latin America, which are owned by mass-produced plantations in the American companies. And these bananas, you can argue that has less quality, is sold cheaper compared to the Caribbean bananas. Alright? And fewer Caribbean bananas are therefore bought. Because I know when you go into a store, you don't just look at quality, you look at the price. Right? If goods are sold cheaper, you are more inclined to purchase it. So when trade liberalization happens, smaller countries or cheaper goods are not always the best choice because they're either poorly produced, right? And smaller countries such as the Caribbean struggle to compete. So we're going to get into trade liberalization, but I just want to introduce you to the term. Alright, any questions so far? Let's go back to regional integration, which was on page 44. Alright, here we go. So we're going to look at the benefits of regional integration now. So that's the second objective. So the first objective was to outline the challenges. We looked at the four main challenges. Now we're going to look at the outline of the major stages in integration. So the major stages in integration, which is the benefits, etc. Alright, let me know once you're ready, everybody. Alright, any questions so far? Are you guys ready? Okay, no questions. So, regional integration has some benefits. Many challenges faced by the Caribbean can be improved by when countries integrate and share their resources to improve trading power. Alright? So when two countries that have similar trading standards, like they want to improve and they don't see any chances together, they can actually merge their markets together and increase the market size. So we call this countries uniting. Alright? So that's the first benefit. When increased market size when countries unite. So if Jamaica and St. Lucia produce the same goods, alright, we can come under one umbrella and produce banana together. Because that gives us a stronger hold on the market. We can demand better price, right? And we can combine our human and economic resource to invest in our own development and increase the quantity and the quality of products. Everybody understand? Alright. Next one. Better response to globalization and trade liberalization. Having stronger and more diverse market economies means that countries are less vulnerable. Beyonce, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
What does this mean? If I have a more stronger and diverse market economy, right? How does that make a country less vulnerable to global changes in price?
Because you have more resources that can help the instead of the countries buying from a different country. And you
Right.
have to,
Right. Because as we said earlier, if a country can't invest in its own development, right, that will create a vicious cycle. So when we can become less vulnerable by having our own resources, right, any global change in price or demand for our products won't affect us. So when we pull together, like St. Lucia and Jamaica pull together, and if the market suddenly turns against us, like nobody wants to buy our product of banana, because we both pull together, we won't feel the effects as how we did if we were separated. Does that make sense?
yes,
All right.
sure.
So, but there's a key point you must understand though. When two countries integrate, right, they have more power and influence on the Caribbean and the world market on a whole. That's why countries are so encouraged to join CARICOM, right? So, that's the second one. The third one is expansion of trade. Regional integration expands areas of trade. So if I merge, my region of trade also widens, because not only can I trade regionally, internationally I can trade as well. That's why, for example, when you study in the Caribbean, you're under CSEC, right? CXC, you aren't limited just to the Caribbean. Because of this regional integration of different councils, Karen can decide to do CSEC and his grades are still valid overseas. Right? So that's another benefit as well. Okay? The final one that we're going to look at is free movement of goods and labor and also capital. So when you integrate, it makes it easier for citizens, goods to travel between other states. So that's why, for example, in some countries, you typically only need a passport, because they make it easier for different way of life to happen between already agreed member states. Let me check who is that. It's Jada Lee and it's 3:35. Alright, let's pause for a second. Let's let Jada Lee in. Good afternoon, Jada Lee. Are you there? Oh, our mic isn't connected. Alright, camera's on from Italian Cine. Camera's on. Alright, let's continue. So, as I was saying, if my country is a part of CARICOM, the mobility that I have to go to another country that is a part of CARICOM is way easier compared to if I want to move to Australia. Alright? Because they've made it easier for citizens to traverse, right? And therefore have a better way of life through. So it not only improves trade and skills distribution, but it makes life easier for citizens. Those are the main four that I wanted to take off. So increased market size, better response to globalization and trade liberalization, expansion of trade, and free movement of goods, labor, and capital. Now we're gonna do some test yourselves for homework. Alright? So here's your first test yourself question. I want you to fill in the gaps in this flow chart. Alright? You're gonna fill in the blanks here for me. So the first one, this one goes to Karen. Karen, are you ready? It says, better response to dash and trade liberalizations. Let me read the instructions quickly. Fill in the gaps on the right using the words below. So you have underemployment, increased cooperation, unemployment, trading area economic globalization, goods, labor, and money, and reduction in inequality. Right? So using those words, fill in the blank. Better response to dash and trade liberalization.
Sir, globalization.
Right. So when you have a stronger economy, it means countries can compete on the world market together. All right. So globalization and trade liberalization helps to have a better response. All right. Next one goes to Sunny. Sunny, you ready? Trading internationally. So we're talking about the expansion of trade. Trading internationally as well as internally increases the Caribbean's. It's two words.
Yes, sir.
So it says trading internationally as well as internally increases the Caribbean's. Two words. So you only have two choices. It's either it increases the increased cooperation or it increases the trading area. Which one is it?
Trading area.
Right. All right. So we did the first two. I want you to complete the rest for me. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Fill in the blanks to complete. That's the first test yourself. And then you have, for challenges facing the Caribbean, you're going to categorize the challenges the challenges the Caribbean faces under these headings: social, trade / economic, or natural. Alright? So all of these different challenges you're going to categorize under either social, trade / economic, or natural. Alright, everybody, any questions?
No, sir.
Alright, so I'm going to screenshot now the homework and post it in the group. Now what I want to go through is a past question that I went through with Karen. And I'm going to go through with the rest of you guys. But specifically the essay section. So let me just take a picture of the different challenges. And your homework is to categorize them.
Sir, can I put that in the group, please?
Yeah, I'm going to send it in the group, don't worry. Your homework is to categorize them under different headings, either social, natural, or trade. And then for benefits of regional integration, your homework is going to be to fill in the blanks below. Right here, there we go. There we go. Okay, good. Excellent. Now, I'm going to send it in the group in a few minutes, but quickly, I want us to go through some quick multiple choice questions. So the first question says, what did the Amerindians introduce to the Caribbean? And this one goes to Talia.
Yes, sir.
Right. What did the Amerindians introduce to the Caribbean? Was it A, cassava, B, cassava, pepper pot, and crafts, C, molasses, or D, just cassava and plantain?
Would it be B or C?
It would be B. And I got an extract to show you the different ethnic groups and what they carry to the Caribbean. So in your spare time, I want you to take this down. Alright? So for the Amerindians, they contributed cassava, pepper pot, traditional craft, which means just basket weaving and pottery. For Afro-Caribbean, Africa, they contributed African traditional religion, drumming and dance, storytelling, plantain, and breadfruit. For Europeans, architecture, Christianity, cricket, government, and education systems. And Asians, Hinduism, Islam, festivals, roti, curry, and rice. So I wanted to take this table off for me. Quickly. Alright? So you can take a picture of it and then you write it in your notes if that's easier for you. The next question says, which of the following are 3 important qualities of a good parent? This question goes to Jada Lee. I have to keep saying, guys, camera's on. Always have your camera. I'm always paying attention. There we go. Camera on from Jada Lee. Are you there, Jada Lee? Alright, she's not there. Alright. Sine, your question. Which of the following are 3 important qualities of a good parent? Is it A, social skills, nutrition, knowledge, and wealth? B, social skills, love, and intelligence? Can you repeat? C, social skills,
nutritional knowledge, and love.
Right. Okay, let's check. 2 is C. Yes. Alright. 3. Which of the following does not relate to the effects of changing roles in Caribbean society? Alright, this one's a little bit more difficult, but this one goes to Tristan.
Sir?
Which of the following does not relate to the effects of changing roles between males and females in the Caribbean society? It does not.
Identity crisis.
3, identity crisis. Alright. 3 is B. C. 1 second. Oh yeah, it's A. My bad. It's A. So what does identity crisis mean in the first place? Tristan?
Yeah.
Alright. Identity crisis, if someone's having an identity crisis, it means they question who they are. Alright? They are not sure what their place is in society. Right? What does it mean to have socialization of the individual? Anybody?
Sir, can you repeat that first?
What does it mean when we say socialization of the individual? And is that an effect of the changing rules? So if a student wasn't properly socialized, would that relate to the fact that there are changing rules in the Caribbean society? So that person was not growing around friends, or they just simply did not get that amount of social activity as they should. Could that lead to the changing rules you see in society with males and females in the workplace? No, it couldn't. Right? Being antisocial doesn't relate to the effects of changing rules. Alright, so the answer would be B. 4. Which of the following social issues is punishable by law? This one goes to Talia. Talia?
Yes, sir.
Which of the following social issues is punishable by law? Is it A, teenage pregnancy, B, child abuse, C, domestic violence, or D, desertion?
Domestic violence is when you abuse your partner, right?
Right.
Okay.
Child abuse can be in terms of
But
emotional abuse, verbal abuse.
wouldn't B, C, and D, wouldn't the 3 of those?
Alright, so
punishable by law?
desertion is when the father just leaves the household, and it not necessarily be a case where it endangers the child, so it's not punishable by law. Alright? For 4, the answer would be C, domestic violence. Alright? Aren't you guys seeing on the news more cases of women being victimized? As recently as Canis. Right? Even though that's not a case where the man was a part of the household, But that's abuse, that's violence against women, which is a case of domestic violence. Alright? So that is punishable by law. If a man and a woman is in an argument and it turns to abuse or physical abuse, then that would be punishable by law, depending on who is in the blame.
Do we know when the meeting ends?
No, because I'm gonna give you the homework to do to take you up to 4 o'clock. Alright? So we're gonna quickly end. What time is it now? Let's check how many minutes is there.
So the meeting has less than a minute left.
Okay, so just rejoin for me. And then now we're gonna go up to 4 and then you're gonna complete the homework for me. Alright, so just rejoin for me. 1 second. Alright, good. Okay, good. Now, the 5th one says, which of the following does not relate to the protection of the family? We have the
Sorry, I'm muted.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, my bad. Which of the following does not relate to the protection of the family? We have UNHCR, the Family Law Act, CEDAW, and WHO. This one goes to Karen. And explain quickly for me what is each acronym.
Alright, sir, the thing is, I'm not sure, what's it called? What B or C, what C is, but I chose D because it talks about the World Health Organization, and that doesn't really have to do anything related to safety or protection.
Right.
So I chose that one.
Alright, so you'll be correct, but not only you would need to know just which one is the correct answer, more than likely know the acronym. So I'm going to go through each acronym. So let's start with CEDAW. Let's start with CEDAW. 1 second. Here we go. So CEDAW has to deal with, as I said before, cases of domestic violence. So write this for me. The acronym is Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. Alright, everybody have that down? Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. Now, the next one, UNHCR. One second. Alright, I forgot that it's fairly new. UNHCR is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. So, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. So if, for example, a family is displaced after some regional events in the country, such as a war, right? This organization would be able to aid and mandate provisions for that family. Alright? Okay. And we know WHO stands for World Health Organization. And the Family Law Act, we already know. My bad. The Family Law Act. One second. One second. Domestic. I always want to reference the book when I'm using these sources. Okay, here we go. Alright. Here we go. So the Family Law Act is based on the rights of child care. So you must protect your child, and you must be under the you must legally protect your child in terms of taking care of them until the age of 18. So that's what the Family Law Act is all about. So they are provision for the protection of the family. Alright? Question 6. Which of the following are not vital for a group to function effectively? Right? We know primary, secondary, and formal group. But just to remind you, let's go through different groups. Primary group. Alright, page 15. One second. Alright, here we go. So, a primary, we know it's a small group where each person know each other, right? And they're based on who and what they are. Family, for example, and your membership is typically involuntary. Secondary is much larger and less personal, such as a school committee, right? Or a church. Sorry, a school committee, right? And a formal social group is an organized group with a leader and written rules, such as a class in school and a football team. And an informal group is one with no clear structure, and members may join or leave at any time, such as a club that you are in. Speaking of clubs, Karen knows about this. There's a new club at the school, chess club. I highly encourage you guys to consider joining. Alright, we recently got accepted to be a formal club, so we're gonna be starting having our first meeting pretty soon. I'll post more information in the group. Alright. Then now, it asks which of them following are not vital. So if you can realize, only one group or two groups were stated with having a leader. So a formal social group is the only one that is required to have an elected leader. So that means a leader is not vital for a group to function effectively. But all of them must have cohesion, which is where each person thinks in the best interest of the next. They must have respect. They must have cooperation. 7. Which of the following are social norms? This one goes to Sene. Sene, you there?
Yes, sir. Here.
Right. Which of the following are social norms? Sneezing, handshaking, and sleeping. Is sneezing a social norm? Or sneezing?
Yes, sir.
Is it?
Do you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
D.
D. Okay, thank you. So that's an example of a social norm. I said thank you. So you're handshaking, you're saying please, and you say thank you. Those are social norm, accepted behaviors. Alright, question 8. Which of the following are examples of secondary social groups? This one goes to, let me see who we have. Tristan.
Yes, sir.
Which of the following are examples of secondary social groups? Secondary social group.
C, sir.
Alright, so he said a school council, a church refurbishment, and a party planning club. It is C. Yes, you're correct. Alright, tell me why it couldn't be A.
Because these had family and friends.
Right, and family are primary groups, one that you can not decide to be a part of. You have to be a part. Alright, question 9. A traditional craft shop is an example of a modern culture, B, a hanging culture, C, a culture divides, or D, commercialization of culture. This one goes to Talia.
So does commercialization of culture mean like you're like showing your culture, like advertising it sort of?
Think of it as monetizing your, like, not really monetizing your culture, but putting it on a scale where purchases can be made.
Um,
So for example, yeah, it would be D. So for example, let me give you an example. If you go to any tourist attraction place, you would always see gift shops or places that have Bob Marley as an icon, right? So that's commercializing Jamaica's reggae background. Alright? The final one, which of the following is not a type of government system? This one finally goes to Beyonce. Last question. Which of the following is not a type of government system? Beyonce. Beyonce, you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir.
Mm-hmm. Which of the following is not a type of government system? Is it A, crown colony, B, independent state, C, constitutional monarchy, or D, a republic?
Sir, what does C mean?
Constitutional monarch. All right, we went through this earlier where we talked about the fact that when Britain, all right, gave countries independence, it was still under a condition where there was supposed to be a governor. All right, so even though that governor is not having any power, you are still considered a constitutional monarch. So Jamaica, for example, is a constitutional monarch. Understood?
Yes, sir.
So which would be the option? Would it be A, B, C, or D? Wouldn't it be B, independent state? Beyonce?
Yes, sir. Sir, you said it. D, sir.
Yeah, wouldn't it be B as in boy? B as in boy, you sure?
Sir, I don't know, sir.
Alright, so I want you to go over government then. We're going to pick up next class on government. Alright, let me quickly give you that topic to look at. Government on page 31. I'm going to page 34. Alright, next class we're going to pick up on government and go over this type of government systems. So let me just quickly go to government for you. 1 second. Here we go. So when we looked at government, we talked about the fact that you have crown colonies, constitutional monarchs, and republics. So I want you to go over this for me. We learned this last term, and we're going to go over it just to make sure you understand. But in the meanwhile, complete the homework for me, and if you have any questions, just let me know. Alright, everybody? I'm going to post it in the WhatsApp group in a few minutes.
Okay, sure.
Alright, everybody. Take care and have a good evening.